Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie, and today I wanted to do the introduction to a video that I filmed about a week ago. And it's an update video with Chris and Darrell. And the first video we did was talking about their park strip. Now they have a park strip that hasn't been watered for 3 years, and I wanted to do an update video on that. The second video we did was about their Oya system, their automatic Oya system. And they had some melon trees that they had planted up, and I wanted to go back and look at those. Plus they have kind of a food forest in their backyard, and I wanted to look at that. Now, last week was a hot week, and it was a hot day that we were doing the video, and unfortunately I lost the first 20 minutes of my video. And the first 20 minutes showed the park strip, it showed the melon trees, it showed this beautiful area that they created for relaxation. But we did get the backyard. And we did get part of their relaxation area that they built. Now I did get a few pictures, so let me go over the park strip. This is what the park strip looked like this spring. Absolutely gorgeous, a lot of beautiful flowers, and the park strip was still beautiful this summer. Now if you want to learn more about that park strip, I'll link a video up here at the top that talks about it. But it's an absolutely gorgeous park strip, and I suggest you look at that video if you're looking for something that's low maintenance, beautiful, and easy to grow in Utah. Now for their melon trees, I'll link a video up here that talks about their Oya system, and here's a picture that I took of their melon trees. I think Darrell said that they're 10-foot rebar posts. What I do know is they did that beautiful bend at the top with a bike tire. The posts are also pounded into the ground, but they're not cemented. They're using the strength of their metal raised beds, plus they have the chains at the top like you can see, and this is what the melon beds look like now. They're absolutely gorgeous, and in the backyard they have similar type beds. They're not in the melon tree look, but they are rebar posts, and they're going to talk a lot about the melons and how they grow them when we do the video on the backyard. Now the last thing that I wanted to kind of update you on is how they built their seating area. It is a tropical paradise. I absolutely love it. Darrell created the woven net in the back where he has pot hangers woven into it, and we have pictures on how he created those. And the rest of it is made with rebar again, and all of their rebar is not welded. They put it together with copper fittings that I will show you a picture of here in just a second. And so it's really, really easy. He kept calling it cheap. I wouldn't call it cheap because it's not cheap, it's just inexpensive. It's inexpensive and beautiful. So let's get into the video and show you a little bit more about what Darrell and Chris are doing, because they are absolutely amazing. Visiting with them is a huge pleasure, and they have a lot of wonderful, interesting tricks and tips to talk about. So let's get into the video.
There's multiple pins that run all the way through that bed and all the way through the side to hold all of those boards together lock solid forever. Everything is done with pins.
They're actually carriage bolts.
That run the length of it and the sides on 3 levels of the boards. So all of the boards have something to always keep them in line. Plus they're all locked into place already. And this is pressure treated wood, and I wouldn't use pressure treated wood on things that I was personally going to eat, but none of this is edible, so I don't really care that it's pressure treated.
Make it last longer.
Yeah, and this is a rainforest environment. We have to have pressure treated wood, and it's been treated with oils and things. So but other than that, a little bit of maintenance, cleaning and things like that in the springtime. We don't do anything out here but just hang out and enjoy it after 5 years.
I would be here all the time,
Yeah,
every day.
everything is very low maintenance, and that's on purpose because we don't want to go back to it a year or later. If it doesn't last 20 years, I'm not going to put it in.
And then look what you've done over here. Number one, I love the passion vine, but number two, look what you've done with what would be normal garden detritus.
Yeah.
These are your alliums that you have done in your artistic fashion.
Yeah, those were our 4th of July fireworks. They're obscured a bit by a passion vine, but we like the passion vine enough where we want the flowers. That's what we're growing it for. And it's just starting to bloom right now. We don't have any open flowers, but many flower buds are just starting right now.
As well as the impossible to grow blueberries.
Yeah, this is a jelly bean. This actually is 2 different varieties of jelly bean. This was just some original, probably from Lowe's. This is jelly bean, the cultivar. That's the shortest cultivar of blueberry that I know of. And it is growing in almost pure peat moss. It has some azalea mix and some compost and some perlite. But other than that, I would say it's 80% peat moss.
It's about the only way you can do it here.
Yeah, highly acidic. I would guess in the 5.5 range would be the acidity of that.
This is how they've curved all of their rebar, this beautiful little bicycle wheel.
Yeah, so we put the rebar in there and then cranked it over, so every one of those has that same radius out there in the front yard.
It wasn't mounted on the gate when we did it.
It was mounted on a bike, but I used that specifically to decorate the gate in a fun way.
And here the artist comes out again.
And we have a lot of, I know the sun comes through here, so we have a lot of different funky shadows and things that happen because of these bells and
keychains. I love it. Yeah, look at the wall.
Keychains and things.
Right here where you sit. You
Yeah,
see
so we know that the sun comes through here and lights up somewhat like a stained glass window or something, but these were just samples we got from some place downtown that does acrylic type stuff. So I just bought a sampler box and put each one there. They're all different. But just taking ourselves not very serious as far as like the cost of something isn't. Yeah, that's not the motive. I'm way more proud to say I spent 50 cents at the DI than 500 at wherever.
And then look what you've created.
Yeah, it means more to me, and it is nobody else has it.
No.
Yeah. So.
But they could have something like it that's tailored to their own.
One of the things that we really need to talk about in this is the UV protected baler twine.
Yes. I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, so we can talk about. Darrell probably should be the one.
Yeah, Darrell, please.
Yeah, so this is made up of, what was it, 17?
There's 13 panels.
13 panels.
And 3,600 knots.
Yeah.
3,600, that's dedication.
So each one of these is a separate panel. Every other one has 2 pot holders built in.
Now, when you say baler's twine, that's the hay balers.
Yeah, that's the hay balers.
We got it at IFA, and it's specifically for, they use it for baling hay is because it has a UV protection in the plastic that doesn't break down out in the field. So this particular color has basically been discontinued by the manufacturers because the farmers kept losing the green cord in their green hay. So they don't make green as far as we know anymore, and black is also not popular. So this was set up by creating, we had a plywood board with nails on a grid. So each one of the knots set right underneath one of the nails. So when you make a knot, you would tie it and then you would pull it and hang it right, and it would stick underneath the nail. So each one of the nails gives us the spacing and then also holds the knot for the next one. So there was a board, a big plywood board that had little nails all over, hundreds of nails.
Darrell, did you count?
Hundreds of nails.
I don't remember.
And so one of the patterns had the pot holders on 2 pot holders, and another pattern that had 1 pot holder. So they alternated so they weren't bumping into each other.
So it's like
So
Yeah,
it
I'm
is,
not into type, but it's like a
it's
great big huge
macrame.
macrame.
It is, yeah, it is a form of, someone that does real macrame would say this isn't macrame, but
But it's that along
we
that
call
same
it,
thought.
yeah, we call it macrame. So, but what it does is, you know, it gives the plants some, you know, the pot holders were a special thing. We could have just used a soccer net or something, but this is, we don't do anything out of the box or anything. So, yeah, so this was Darrell's idea. You know, we collaborate on everything, but he was the one that came, he's the one that did the macrame before all of this and knew how to do that. So that was his contribution to this whole structure. One of the many is adding this macrame thing to the back. Totally changes it.
Yeah, I love it.
Let me just mention on my blog page, I have the instructions for making these panels, dixonsoc.com.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
that's,
because you have a lot of amazing ideas on there.
So everything that we've built, he's documented and shown. Basically print out the thing and build it yourself. That level of explanation of what's going on here. So if it is needed by somebody, it is available through these links, so we can show you how to.
Perfect. I love that. Yeah, well, so let's, now that I don't want to leave this spot, but we've got to go see on yonder.
Okay, and this is basically a vertical oasis of berries and melons and cucumbers and figs, and so really we're really trying to maybe overdo it by squeezing so many things in, and we'll have to trim back, but if you got the space, why not? It's just not being used if it's not being utilized for something.
And you're growing in everything. You've got grow bags right here. You had the Lowe's buckets back there.
Yep,
You had the
anything. And the main motivator for this was these were free. Those buckets are fairly inexpensive and last for a while if you can take care of them. UV protection is also one that we always want to look out for, is because we've used materials that are UV friendly, because so many things break down and then you're rebuilding it 2 years later and now you're back at it. So we don't want to touch it after we build it. So what we build pretty much just stays where it's at for as long as it can. But yeah, these are all different types of muskmelons for the most part. And
so how many plants would you say you have in here?
oh, in each planter here, there's, let me think, probably 25 to 30 separate plants in each one of these.
Wow.
So, yep. And these do not grow this way naturally. This is not a natural way that a trailing vine wants to grow. You have to come out here often, mostly during the month of July, and just tuck these back in. These should be trimmed off, but you just got to tuck those back in as it grows up. Otherwise, it will just flop and it'll never be able to grow up the trellis by itself. It needs assistance. So the other part of this is pollination is easier because a lot of the male flowers are falling through the whole season. There'll be a whole cluster of male flowers all over the ground. So pollen is just dusting all over these things because the flowers above them are just dusting down. So we get better pollination, I think, vertically than
because
we
you
would.
have so much fruit on these.
Yeah, and the bees are the main pollinators. I come out and
so they go buzz the top and knock the pollen off.
That one with the long butt there is the main culprits for our pollination.
So cute.
There's a smaller one that's on the scene this year that I've noticed that does a lot, but the bees are just nonstop. Of course, this particular variety is getting hit more hard with our 90 degrees we're sitting at right now.
West facing.
But that's totally typical, and in the evening that'll just spring right back up and be just fine. So and again, we talked about this earlier, I've never seen a squash bug on a muskmelon. Watermelons, muskmelons, and squash are all in the same genus, but apparently there's something to it, because I've never seen or heard of anyone losing squash bug or melons to squash bugs. But
Just a huge
this
bonus.
this year, all I see is squash bug problems for squash growers, and that's why we've stopped growing all squash, because I can't stand the bugs.
Move to
So,
something that grows better and easier.
yeah.
Now you're
so,
talking about using real estate. Look at this.
Yeah.
So you've got the really tall real estate way up high.
And again, I can try to give you.
Filled out the bed.
I'm 6'6", and that is that's
Taller.
eight. So, and we're also here using the front and the back, and I'm also this year using the front part. We've done companion planting, but for the melons, I would rather them just have their own space. So now this year, I'm actually using the front side of this trellis, using the ground and the understory now, and putting those melons up on a little stand there so they don't rot. If they hit the ground and get moisture under there, they can rot and you'll lose them. So that's just a cheap little stand that we have this year for melons growing in the
From
understory.
Amazon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So those are
yeah. We just ordered
okay.
them and had that. So arbor with a couple of different types. This is a canary melon or a Wande canary, and this is ambrosia. There's two types, and they're growing together here on this toward the arbor. These melons are also really early. These varieties are about 70 days, I believe, both of these, and that's 70 days is some of the earliest ripening melons that I think that exists. I don't
So
know.
you're extending your season,
Yeah.
extending the area that you can grow.
Yeah.
You're utilizing everything for better production.
Yeah, so by picking fruit that ripens early, not only is it going to ripen at 70 days, or supposed to be ripened at 70 days, it's still going to continue to pump out fruit past that point. So growing something like a honeydew that's 110 days, as opposed to something that's 70 days, the honeydew are just barely finishing up, and these are still producing by the end. So by finding F1 hybrids that are early ripening, you can get a lot more fruit. So if you're putting this much effort into it, don't settle with just out of the big box store, whatever you got. So again, using as much space as possible. There's hardy kiwi, berries, and then this is Jenny kiwi. That is a large fuzzy kiwi fruit. This is the only cultivar that will live in zone 7, and it's self-pollinating as well.
It's
And
looking
it
really,
looks
really
like
healthy.
it needs a little, it doesn't like to grow horizontal, it likes to grow vertical. But so yeah, this is Jenny if you're looking for the kiwis like you get in the store, the big fuzzy ones. But the kiwi berries next to them, those are also similar tasting, but you can eat the skin on those. But this one was the fuzzy ones. So this little area is somewhat of a nursery sometimes. Now it will be, these vines actually grow 20 feet long, or can grow 20 feet long. And the Jenny kiwi can produce 100 pounds of fruit each season.
Wow.
when it's mature. So be prepared for a heavy duty trellis if you're going to do Jenny kiwis. And this is mostly turned into from an abandoned lot that was in really bad shape to trying to turn this into just wander around and gobble down fruit from every surface you can find.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's my favorite kind of place.
Yeah, so some things are doing better than others, and it's always good to point out the things that aren't doing well so someone can learn that what to do in that situation. But
Looks like you grow in the grow a little fruit tree method. You keep your fruit trees small so you can grow more varieties. Right?
Yep, and if I can't reach the fruit, the tree is too tall. I don't want to get on a ladder to get the fruit. So all of these fruit trees are pollinating partners, so they have been paired for the specific reason to flower around the same time. So suckle and bosque are pollinating partners. We had a Shinseki Asian pear there before and it died, so we replaced it with a bosque pear. So all of the fruit trees are thought out in a way that the pollinating partner is either nearby. The neighbors do have a few apple trees, so our Honeycrisp is covered. These two stone fruit will pollinate each other, and then the Chinese Mormon apricot is the other stone fruit. But as we start adding more trees, the stone fruit are becoming more and more the ones that I want to avoid. I love peaches, but because of the greater peach tree borer and the problems,
Farmers markets.
I can't deal with it. I can't. And so things that require spraying, a lot of maintenance and things that I'm trying to stay away from. So by adding persimmon and the Asian pear, and in the back there's it's a seedless ché fruit tree. It's a Chinese mulberry, and it's pretty new here, first year. But this, I intend to grow in a vase shape and fill in this entire back area. So this seedless Chinese mulberry, and
some other things.
Some other things, loganberries, and we've tried to keep the weeds back, but mostly make sure that some pollinating flowers get around the outside to draw in some pollinators. So always making sure that we have some pollinating flowers. I process all the lavender that we grow here as well, so that's done. It comes out with a second crop right now, which isn't that big. I just leave it for the bees and then actually trim it up after it's done. But I always keep the lavender as like a sphere, as much as a sphere shape, half sphere as possible. That's the shape I'm after for all of these. So I process the lavender around the 1st of July or something like that. So that's just one more crop that's in the understory that's not used.
Multi-purpose.
And yeah, so if there isn't a plant growing on a surface, why not?
Yeah.
So
let's go look at your grapes.
Okay,
too.
yeah.
And your pineapple guavas.
Yeah, and those are feijoa, or pineapple guavas, and those are native to Brazil, but more cultivated in New Zealand, more with kiwis and things like that.
Very marginally hardy here, but I've heard of people doing it.
These are the very few varieties that are rated for Zone 7. So, and I plan on protecting them just like a fig or anything to an extent. When they get large, if they die back, but who knows. But they're rated for Zone 7, and we're well below that, or well above that. So the grapes are another thing that we like to snack on in the summer. And for all of the grapevines that I see out there that are so wild and so all over the place, I used to do that the same way, but this is the first year that I was extremely aggressive early on in cutting these back and making sure that I'm thinning the vines and that everything is set to as close to 4 to 6 fruiting spurs per foot as possible, but it's pretty hard to really get that exact. But I come out here at least once a week and prune off tons of branches that are just getting wild.
And you're going to have a second crop.
Yeah, there was a second. I normally would have cut that off, but I wanted to see what it would be like for a second round to go. So the first bit, so I didn't want them all to ripen at once. So they've all kind of come on. But so I've noticed a huge difference. This would be I have a marker. I think this would be an, I want to say interlocking, but it's not.
No, and truthfully, we're not sure because we believe some of the tags were mislabeled.
From some of the nurseries, you just can't trust. Anyway, they end up being just red. But what I've noticed is last year we had a lot of tiny ones that they were sour. They fell all over the place, and I decided that I will never ever let a grapevine get out of hand before. So I have aggressively trimmed them early on in the early spring.
Yeah, and you've got some big
every week I come out and make sure that they're, because I want all of that energy to the fruit. I don't want them to be in vegetative mode. I want them to be in fruit production. So
it's working.
To cut all of that stuff off.
Well, if you look at the orchard, vineyards.
Yeah.
They don't have their grapevines all over the place.
No, everything. That's a good way to look at something is go look at what a professional does with their stuff, and that's a good indicator of
production.
Wonder why their fruit trees are only 4 feet high. because that's the way, that's the most optimal way to do that, and that's been developed over years and years. So to know what's in your garden, to know what variety or cultivar is also important, because it's drastically different from cultivar to cultivar.
Yeah.
It can be. So knowing what you have in your yard, and then just get on YouTube, get on a great channel like Malie's and learn how to take care of your stuff. Knowing what you have, and then knowing how to take care of it, because each one of these plants have specific pruning needs. The apple tree is pruned completely different than the peach tree, or it should be, or it could be. It doesn't have to be.
And be okay with not knowing it all the first year.
Yep,
The whole learning experience, the experience from year to year is part of the fun.
Yeah. The failures for me are the most valuable, because that's what I like to share the most, is because I'm not afraid to say that I totally messed this up. Here's why I messed this up, and that I will never do this, and I'd like to share
why
to other people. Don't make the same mistake I did on this. Yeah, so the reason why we are getting the muscadines is because the grape family is in two, the grapes are in two families, basically. Muscadines are one family of the grape, or the one section of the grape family, and bunch grapes are the two types. So muscadines typically will ripen maybe one or two on the bunch, and you can just come by and just eat one big muscadine, where bunch grapes, typically the whole bunch is taken off at a single time. So we like the bunch grapes, but when I'm walking around the garden, I don't want to take a whole bunch with me. I just want one or two. So these are a little bit bigger than a grape. These are hybrid cultivars, so these aren't true muscadines. This is a hybrid between a grape and a muscadine. So muscadines typically only grow in the south. That's where they're mostly known, and most people don't have very good luck with muscadines in our area that I know of. So this is a cultivar that is more cold hardy, slightly different. The berries are slightly smaller than a regular muscadine, but they're seedless was one reason, is where muscadines typically have a seed in them, which isn't that great for me. So I wanted seedless. All of the other grapes are seedless table grapes. So a seedless muscadine hybrid is what the plan is for this tiered cordon trellis. And they'll just grow along here. It actually supports the neighbor's fence. It was a place that wasn't being used other than weeds and pollinators. So we've increased we've just added more surface area for more trailing vines and fruit to grow. So
are these are then obviously cemented in? Because I just saw you hook the fence to them.
Yeah, these have been cemented in, and mostly because of that they're supporting this wooden fence that isn't cemented in. So this trellis is actually doing two jobs, which is great, because that's the neighbor's fence, and that's nice for us to bolster the side of it. So yeah, these are razzmatazz and oh my seedless.
I love
the craziest names, but that's the name of the muscadines. The pawpaw trees, as anyone knows, the pawpaws are an understory tree, and they need almost like probably 90% shade for the first several years of their lives. So these are under extreme shade cloths for the first several years. And let's see if we can get back here. What I'm also doing, a trick that I learned with the pawpaws, are that they need extreme shade coming in, but they also do need some light. So what I've done is I've put some metal on the back here, which actually bounces indirect light back into them.
And they look healthy.
So they get very little care back here, but so that's why the extreme shade is that. And the idea for these is that they'll be under shade cloth for the first maybe 6 feet of their life. And after that, the pawpaws want really full sun. So it looks like they're getting a little burned up, but it is all summer and we'll just hobble them along. But the biggest thing that I always want to share with people is the secret to gardening is observation. Just
Yes.
going around and looking at everything and understanding what you're looking at is the key to it all. You can catch problems early on.
Daily. You need to be out there daily.
Yeah,
and
you
just
can look for
at 'em.
weeds. But yeah, observation, being there, and you know, you have to really love it.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for letting me come and look at your property and talking about what you've done. You guys have done amazing, amazing stuff here. You're growing neat things in neat ways. And I'm grateful that you're willing to share with everybody.
You bet.
Yeah, so like I said, we'll link Darrell's website down below, and maybe we'll come back another time and get another update on what you guys are doing.
Anytime.
Because it looks like it's continuously evolving.
Yep, come eat some melons.
Yes. Well, anyway, thank you guys for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed this. And if you have enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and go have a wonderful garden adventure.
Thanks.